Namaste. Yesterday, a young man asked, can Ketu give fame and wealth? In this podcast, I have answered this question. These kind of questions come when you miss to understand the true essence of Ketu, the real beauty of Ketu, the depth of Ketu. And that is exactly that I have emphasized on and shared many beautiful insights on Ketu. Once you understand the essence of Ketu, you will never ask such a question. So let's begin. For Ketu, fame is foolish. For Jesus, fame is useless. For Buddha, fame is a nuisance. But who is willing to listen to the truth? Prophet Muhammad never was interested in fame. The divine masters rejoice in their aloneness. Ketu represents aloneness. Aloneness is not behind fame. It is a different story if fame follows aloneness. But aloneness never is behind fame. Ketu is never behind fame. Only a man who can rejoice in aloneness can understand love. The first lesson of love is to learn how to be alone. Remember this. Only a man who finds his bliss in aloneness can understand life. Ketu understands life. A yogi understands life. Through yogic practice, one can understand life. The divine master, the real yogi, does love, but their love is detached, and because it is detached, it has a certain fragrance, a certain depth to it. Ketu represents detachment. Attachment is the strongest block to realization, says Neem Karoli Baba. Attachment becomes the main hurdle to your self-realization. The divine masters find their bliss when there is absolute no greed, no quest for money. Ketu represents absolute disinterest in money or sex or fame. Ketu is simply happy to be, like a healer. A refined Ketu, that is a refined yogi, continues with his journey from one place to the other, from one village to the other. He moves, but he moves in his own bliss, in his own peace. The place, the territory that Buddha moved along came to be known as Bihar. It is an outcome of two words, Buddha and Vihar. Vihar means going around. And so the territory or province in which Buddha moved around came to be known as Bihar. All that Buddha talks about is India. And by India, he meant only Bihar, because he had never gone anywhere else during his lifetime. Bihar means tour. During his lifetime, Buddha toured only in that area. That's why the name became Bihar. In short, Bihar means Buddha's tour area. But the greatest irony is that the people of Bihar never accepted Buddha wholeheartedly. They condemned him. The Brahmins or the Pandas ridiculed his teachings. And so Buddha spends his whole life in the land of Bihar, traveling to many villages and towns of Bihar. For 40 years he walked around, shared such a wealth of wisdom, so much of love, so much of affection. How beautiful this man must be. But that is how this human world is. When the master is on the physical plane, the world never realizes his worth. And then, when his body dies, when he leaves this human world, people start realizing. They start building statues and temples and shrines. It is the greatest irony of this human world that the state that condemned Buddha was later named after him in his remembrance, Bihar. The whole of Bihar condemned him. Now the name Bihar is because of him, because he walked there. Bihar means where Buddha walks. Where Buddha walks, where Ketu walks. And what a beautiful man Buddha was. The only beautiful man who once walked on this planet, and his name was Gautam Buddha. Mohan asked, what is so significant about Gautam Buddha that makes him so special, so lovable, so divine, so precious than the entire divinity put together? Looking into Mohan's eyes, I said, Buddha was the only one, a man after many centuries who came to help us all realize that what we seek on the outside is within. Buddha showed us the way. He was the only one who helped us to realize that religion begins only when you start turning inward. Ketu exactly is what Buddha have been saying all his life, and that is to turn inward. And to all my close followers and listeners, you all are well aware of the fact that Ketu is the way, that only Ketu can help you to turn inward. Meditation is possible only when you have the blessings of Sri Ketu. And so, fame has nothing to do with Ketu, because Ketu is not interested in wasting time by focusing on the outside. Ketu is deeply interested in focusing within. Ketu is the wise energy that helps you realize that fame is foolish. Fame cannot help you grow inside out. Ketu is that divine energy that lets you realize that fame, power, money, sex, pleasures is not the answer that can help you attain the lasting happiness that you seek. The famous Hollywood star Jim Carrey quotes, I hope everybody could get rich and famous and will have everything they ever dreamed of, so they will know that it's not the answer. The questioner is looking for fame. I hope he gets what he wishes for. In fact, I hope that all of you get what you wish for, just so that at the end of your life, if you become aware, if by any chance you start turning inward, you start meditating, then you would realize that it's not the answer. But people don't listen, and they will not, because they are destined to go through a certain suite of experiences until they wake up, until they self-realize. There was a young man, he must be like Mohan, always eager to seek the master, always in search of a master. And so one fine day, he sets out in search of a real master, a true master. Just outside his village, he finds an old man seated beneath a tree. And he comes to the old man and says, I am looking for a real master. Can you tell me to which direction should I move on, right or left? The old man was engrossed in his bliss, engrossed in his meditation. His eyes looked different. There was a certain grace, and there was so much love in his whole being. Looking at the young man, he smiled and said, "Son, you go towards the right direction and take care of yourself." The young man thanked the old man and set out on his journey to search the master, the real master. And he spent 20 years in searching for the real master. But all he found was fake masters, fake babas, fake saints. And so finally, with frustration, he decided to go back to his village. On his way back, he again came across the same tree, the same old man. And the old man was in his own bliss, seated beneath the same tree. And suddenly, the man's heart moved. His eyes started flowing with tears. He could now realize that this old man is my master. The man rushed. He was running. He was crying. His whole being was shaken. He ran and he came and he fell upon the old man's feet. And he said, "Master, Master." And the old man raised him up and said, "Raghu, how long you made me wait? I have been waiting 20 years for you." Raghu, that was the young man's name. Raghu said, "You know my name? You know everything. Then why you never told me when I met you for the very first time and asked you for direction to seek the master?" The old man, the divine master, smiled and said, "One has to realize by his own awareness. It is okay that it took 20 years for you to self-realize that I am your master. I have been waiting for you 20 years. You were looking for the master, and here I was waiting for my Raghu, and see, now you have arrived." Raghu kissed the hands of the master and said, "But all those 20 years were wasted." The master said, "You are wrong. Those 20 years have not been wasted. Those 20 years enabled you to realize what is fake, to realize how shallow this human world is. Those 20 years brought you to a stage where you could differentiate between what is real and what is not. So how can you say that those 20 years were wasted? For everything, there is a certain process through which each one of you has to go through. You may think that the process was useless, but God knows what He is doing with your life. It is through His process that you evolve, you mature, you self-realize. This is how it happens. This is the way of its happening. It took 20 years for Raghu to realize who his master is. It may take 50 years for some of you, and it may take just 5 minutes for some of you. It all depends on your self-awareness. The greater the awareness, the greater is the self-realization of the truth. And Ketu brings this self-realization. Rahu makes you go round and round and round until you start coming back to the source, the master, until you realize that what you had been seeking was always within you and not anywhere else. Rahu will give you fame, and this fame will then take away the peace, the joy, the bliss away from you. Ketu will pull you away from fame, and then once you are in your own secluded place, you can meditate, you can focus within, There is no disturbances. There is no greed that can distract you. There are no temptation that can stop you from meditating and rejoicing in your own bliss. Fame needs extrovert nature. The very basic example of extrovert nature is that of a journalist. Only when you are loaded with Rahu that you can become a good journalist. Reporting, news, media, all of this is a perfect place that drives fame. And it all comes under the influence of Rahu. This age is of Rahu, and so media is very powerful. Journalists are more empowered than policemen. They can cause much more harm to you than anybody else. That is how the media is powerful. The politics of today is driven by the empowered media, that is Rahu. Politics is Saturn. Rahu is media. Media is driving the politics of this world. It is a hard truth. Ketu is a simple man. He is a Buddha. He is a Jesus. He is a Muhammad. He is a Mahavira. He is all that what meditation is. He is all that what spirituality is. And he is least interested in the affairs of Rahu, of fame, of wealth, of sex, of pleasures. And yet he is always found to be happy in his own bliss, in his eternal joy, in his eternal peace. If you do not find peace within, you will not find it anywhere else. The goal of life is the attainment of peace and not the achievement of power, fame, name and wealth, says Swami Sivananda, a great spiritual master. Ketu gives you peace, Ketu gives you detachment, Ketu enables you to heal yourself. So Ketu has absolutely nothing to do when it comes to bringing fame and wealth to you. But Ketu has a lot to do when it comes to healing yourself, because it is only when you can heal yourself that you can heal others. Ketu has a lot to do when it comes to bringing peace to your heart, joy to your heart. So yes, Ketu has absolutely no role when it comes to giving you fame and wealth. But Ketu can give you those wonderful experiences and journeys that fame and wealth cannot give you. Ketu is meditation, and meditation gives you nothing, and yet you are blessed with everything. Once Buddha was asked, "What have you gained from meditation?" Buddha replied, "Nothing. However, let me tell you what I have lost. I have lost anger, anxiety, depression, insecurity, fear of old age, and fear of death." Unless you become empty, how can you be filled with the divine? Ketu enables the coming of this emptiness. The inner emptiness is the door to God. Emptiness is everything. The ending is the beginning. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form, states the Heart Sutra, one of the best known ancient Buddhist texts. The essence of all things is emptiness, nothingness, and Ketu represents the state of emptiness, the state of nothingness. The great Sufi saint Jalaluddin Rumi says, "Knock and he'll open the door. Vanish and he'll make you shine like the sun. Fall and he'll raise you to the heavens. Become nothing and he'll turn you into everything. Nothing. That's Ketu. That's the true power of Ketu. The divine power of Ketu. The divine beauty of Ketu. Fame is foolish. Fame is cheap. If you are looking for something that is long lasting and much precious and beautiful, then that is only possible through the divine doors of Sri Ketu. Ketu encourages you to keep going within, to meditate, to look within. If God comes and asks what you want, Rahu or Ketu, fame or bliss, logic or love, head or heart, ignorance or consciousness, then what will be your answer? Your answer will define your future, and God has been asking you all the same question, birth after birth. What you are experiencing this life is based on the answer that you have chosen. If you want to raise the quality of your life, then the answer needs to be revised. Ask yourself, and I say it to all my close followers, are you ready to revise the answer? The current course of your life can be revised only when you are ready to revise the answer that you have been giving all your births after births. The master appears when the student is ready, says Lao Tzu, the divine master. Your readiness is important for you to realize the true essence of life. My sharing is simply to help you all find the right answer. Meditate. Jai Sri Ganesha. Jai Guru. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha.